Okay, welcome back. And I hope you're able to establish some good connections in the breakout rooms. We'll have them open again for about an hour following the conclusion of our Ask the Experts panel. This last panel session explores the future of MPC. And I'm really excited to see how this one goes because I know that MPC is going to expand far beyond the scope of how it's being used today. This panel will be moderated by Christopher Grijault Desfontaines, the co-founder and chief operating officer of Defense. Chris has been busy founding 4 different companies since 2010. He's played a very active role in helping pull together and delivering today's conference. Chris, thanks for all your help, and please provide a brief introduction to your panel topic and your panelists.
Thank you, Frank. Very happy to be on this panel for the MPC Alliance Digital Asset Security Summit. Thank you all for being here. Very honored because this is a very exciting panel with an exciting topic, because we're going to talk about the future of MPC, this revolutionary technology. And so please, the floor is yours for a brief introduction. Let's start with you, Ivan.
Okay, my name is Ivan Damgaard. I'm a chief cryptographer at Particia and also a professor in computer science at Aarhus University, Denmark.
Thank you. Jordan?
Hi, my name is Jordan Forsman. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Cybavo, long, extensive career in cybersecurity.
Nice. Hi, Kurt.
Hey, yes, my name is Kurt Nielsen, and I'm the CEO of Particia and also co-founder of a project called Particia Blockchain.
Thank you. Ben?
My name's Ben Whitby. I'm one of the co-founding teams of Credo. We've developed the world's first decentralized MPC, so excited to be here today.
Cool. Thank you very much. And Ahmet?
Hi, my name is Ahmet Tinke, and I'm the CEO of CPR. We are a company based out of Denmark, and we've been working on MPC for decades. Our principals are some of the most well-known people in the field. So thanks.
Awesome. All right. So the way I want to lead this panel is both by talking about scientific, cryptographic elements of MPC, its future evolutions, but also, of course, its business applications, and in the context, of course, of crypto and digital assets at large. So we'll have this focus on the science, and then broaden our views and look at the new situations and let's say the expected outcomes you would hope MPC can provide to crypto and decentralized finance. So first, what about kicking off this discussion by talking about the past, taking a quick look at the past. Everyone is talking about more and more about MPC, multi-party computation, in this industry, from crypto custodians to layer 1 blockchains like Ethereum. So it seems to be popular, but MPC is old, as you might know, and when I mean old, I'm talking 80s, 1980s old. So maybe a first question for you, Ivan. How come it's booming only now?
Well, I think it's a natural slowness in development because things like this just don't take off until enough people understand what this thing can do for you and what it actually is. We had exactly similar development with a very simple thing that digital signatures. I mean, if you remember all the way back to 70s and 80s, this was technology from outer space. Nobody had any idea what this thing was, how is this useful, at all. And today it's just something that, I feel everybody knows what this is and talk about it as a completely natural part of our lives. MPC is a much more complicated beast, and you should expect that it takes much more time for people to grasp what is this anyway, what can it do for me. And I think maybe after all these years we're finally at a point where more people are getting that understanding.
Would you say that there has been major improvements or major steps, events in the life cycle of MPC that has accelerated it, brought it to the point where it is today more than any other stuff? Is there's like particular, can you pinpoint things in its history that has really helped MPC become what it is today?
If I may, I think one other element of this is sort of the environmental factors that have necessitated the use of technologies like MPC. 20, 30 years ago, we had no idea of the scale and the ubiquity of security vulnerabilities in terms of all the layers from the operating system all the way up to the application layer, and how attackers would be able to compromise pretty much every single layer of the tech stack that we put there. And this capability of removing a single point of failure has become extremely important because of the technical capabilities of the bad guys being able to completely compromise our systems, and giving rise to that cybersecurity mantra of assume that you've already been compromised and then work to mitigate the effects of such compromise. So that environment really necessitates technologies like MPC and makes it much more applicable to the world that we have today. And so we see its proliferation.
And if I can add a comment there, since we're looking at the perspective and timeline and some of the important milestones, I think we all agree that MPC has been around a long time. I have to explain to a lot of prospects that it's actually been around longer than Bitcoin. But putting aside, it's sort of interesting that the time frame for Ivan's price matching system for sugar beets, which was in 2008, was about the same time that the Bitcoin paper was published, which was 2009. But I think we've kind of come to accept that what really fueled interest in MPC, so the killer app for MPC, was protection of digital assets.
Yeah.
And the first hot wallets and operational wallets, which were difficult to implement with existing technologies. So it's a bit of a symbiotic setup, and MPC turns out to be the silver bullet for digital asset protection. So you have a situation where you have a killer app and sort of a silver bullet together, and a lot of people who know about MPC today just kind of understand it in the context of digital asset and key management, but in reality, it has very deep roots in enterprise use cases, and maybe, and I think a lot of the future, my hopes for a lot of the forward-looking applications for MPC really has to do with existing problems in enterprise security, like identity management, app encryption, new service models such as cloud-based KMS systems or virtual HSMs. And these are, to me, these are far more fundamental problems in security, because it's not about digital assets. It's about our entire internet as we know it. So I think that's a bit of a slight different perspective, but nevertheless, we should also note that back in 2019, the NIST, this is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, kicked off a threshold cryptography working group. So long term, there's more standardization, more adoption by governments, more cryptographic primitives that are based on MPC. So I think while digital assets are sort of a green field, it's brand new and there's no legacy. You can do whatever you want. But the long term is really converting old models to a new one, and that's, I think, where a lot of the forward-looking MPC use cases really are.
This is interesting. We'll come back to the use cases and get deeper onto that subject. But before, as we're still talking about how old MPC is, does that mean, and this is a question that is addressed to everyone, does this mean that MPC has reached today in 2022 its final maturity stage? Maybe to put it differently, have cryptographers in universities today deserted MPC and are have stopped doing their thesis on the topic to attack cooler stuff, or is it still hyped? Is it still something? Maybe Ivan knows this more than anyone else.
If you talk about the academic environment, then MPC is still super cool. It's something that everybody wants to do better at. I think from a theory point of view, I guess the point here is we still don't know exactly what the price of security is. So meaning that if you think about how hard it is to do this computation without security and how hard it is to do it with, I mean, there's still a big distance there. And we still don't understand, does the distance have to be there? And if so, how big is it? We have some partial answers, but there's lots of stuff we don't know.
Interesting. In terms of maturity stage, maturity level of MPC from an application standpoint, would you say that we have reached the final steps, or that there is still a lot of things that we can improve?
Yeah, if I can tap in here, so I'll definitely say that we're only scratching in the surface of the field of use for this technology. So we were doing the first auction back in 2008 and moved into key management and started to work on data protection as such. But I think to point back maybe also a little bit to the first question, that it was this distributed approach that was a bit of a challenge in the beginning, because you basically challenge how people think about trust when they look it up in the dictionary. It's kind of a trustee, you have to point at a single person, and you come with a distributed system and people have to sort of grasp this. And that's basically what happened, at least for us, when we met the blockchain world, where everybody was thinking a decentralized system. It was so much easier all of a sudden to sell the fundamental value added from this technology. And this is only, I mean, there are very few applications so far that is really working today. And this is only the beginning. There's so many possibilities, but I guess we'll get back to that.
Yeah. Sure, we will. Yeah. I mean, even if it's old, even if it has been developed by numerous people, eminent cryptographers, etc., MPC, from what I've seen and listened and heard to so far, being in this industry, is that you have critics, you have skeptics that are saying that MPC has not passed the proof of time, meaning that it's too novel and untested, yet to be trusted. First, do you agree? And second, where do you see potential areas of improvement and consolidation for the MPC stack and its adjunct primitives? Anyone?
I mean, I can just comment on the commercial side, because we're in the business of selling MPC solutions. Generally, if people are wanting to know if it really is secure or not, because it's a very basic question. I mean, I'm going to rely on your software for my crown jewels. Usually there are approaches to that. In the traditional legacy world, I mean, certainly, processes like FIPS or third-party attestations through operational controls like SOC 2 and, whatever. And also, very basic but essential and very important cryptographic proofs. And there are companies that specialize in doing this. You basically take your entire software and they do a code review. They walk through all the cases, all your claims, and then they validate that they're mathematically correct. And I think these kinds of assurances they're pretty unconditional with respect to your assumptions. I mean, if the proofs work based on your claims, that's much better than almost any other assurance that we can provide. So as long as those have been done, I've never had a pushback. Actually, I've never had anybody say, we're not using MPC because we don't think it's secure. I've never had that. But other people might have different perspectives.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think also we have to think about the fact that in fact, verification of software, even automatic verification of software, has moved forward incredibly the last few years. We have, I mean, the world's first fully verified C compiler, for instance, recently in the business. So I think probably we're in a better position now than we ever were. Of course, from a cryptographic point of view, I mean, the cryptographers would say, well, of course it's secure. We proved the protocol is secure, but of course the point is the implementation, whether that's also secure. But I think we're in a position now to also, include that part of the link.
I feel that the conversation so far has recognized that MPC is a really kind of groundbreaking technology. And, whilst we've been challenging ourselves, why hasn't MPC really kind of taken the progress and taken the steps forwards that it really has done in the last 3 or 4 years before this point has really been because society hasn't valued information properly. And whether that information is our identity or information about various other different records. And it is really only with the position and the onset of Bitcoin and digital assets and scarce digital assets, which fundamentally kind of break down into that kind of blockchain governance and the ability to know the information that controls them to actually claim the right and the value to actually that asset in itself. That those private keys and that information has really become so critical. And the conversations that we've had in the industry have been very much around, okay, well, I understand that my digital assets are protected by this private key and this information, and you're telling me that MPC can remove the need for that private key in that structuring position. But somebody somewhere still has to have the cryptographic primitives that really instantiate all of this. And I think there's going to be a great deal of focus on where those cryptographic primitives are actually kind of coming from and the instantiation, because it's going to get much more important that we apply MPC technology to activities in our everyday life as more and more assets in our life become digitally scarce, and we not only need to protect them, but there's far fewer people from a centralized position that can help us recover those assets if they ever get lost. So I think more people need to understand that it's worth their time exploring this space and exploring the applications, because the more people that look at how the technology works, the even greater level of applications we're going to get and see in terms of applying these tools to the existing kind of internet as we see today.
Interesting. All right, I think we're past half time. Let's dig into applications and business perspectives a bit more. MPC has been mostly used in the digital asset crypto industry by custodians and custodial technology and that whole sphere of security applications. We could call it a sub-industry. So it can be everything from Coinbase and Binance and their wallets to custody infrastructure provider like Fireblocks. Last year only, 2021, we saw 4 companies, even more, MPC using MPC. They got acquired: Curve, Unbound, GK, ShardX, to name a few. What's up? Why is there so much FOMO? And why is everyone betting on the future of MPC in this industry?
Well, my position is, speaking as kind of from a Credo position as one of the competitors to the organizations that you just mentioned there, is that the depth of talent in this space is very, very thin. The amount of people that have dedicated time to thinking about this deeply for the last 5, 6, 7 years, that gives them the amount of credibility in the space to actually move things forwards and progress them, is very small. So the acquisitions have been a massive war for talent, and I think that the organizations that have made those acquisitions have made them in a very kind of forward-thinking strategic position. I'm hopeful that we can excite more people to kind of start exploring how the next evolution of MPC technology is going to be moving forwards.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think, especially in the last 2 years, what we've seen is a massive influx as well of institutional money coming into this space, and really bringing with it their expectations around security and the way things should be done, and then kind of waking up to the fact that it's not done that way at all, and there's a lot of problems. So there seems to be a moment of panic in the market in terms of, my God, we need to solve this, and where do we find the people to get this done? And we have to own that whole stack and that whole process. Hence the acquisitions. And you know, in terms of what Ben has said, there is just not a lot of talent out there that understands this technology. And then also the crossroads of, you know, cybersecurity, cryptography, blockchain, compliance, finance, people that understand, you know, all four or five of those issues is very, very thin. So I think that's where we find ourselves, and the field, you know, hopefully will grow as these problems become more visible, and folks coming into the industry will choose to address these issues and try to develop technologies that focus on this.
And you know, just to add to those really two excellent comments, you know, our experience has been that the market in general is not out shopping for technology. So nobody says, I want to buy MPC. They want to find a solution to their pain.
Yeah.
And the early adopters of solutions that incorporated MPC were not big institutions. They were quick-moving digital asset service providers, exchanges, brokers, family offices. And then the providers of these wallets that incorporated MPC kind of used MPC as a differentiator. It wasn't that you couldn't do this in some other way. I mean, there's certainly existing pollution, but the differentiation eventually kind of became such a compelling aspect of it that it sort of became a table stakes component of any operational wallet. So now big institutions understood that, given the limited talent, and given that these pools of talents are targets, they're going to lose control of their own destiny.
Yeah.
So I think the race to deploy such solutions really have to do with taking control of their digital assets and their roadmaps, wean off existing providers to some. The acquisitions really have to do with that. I mean, if you didn't acquire something, you're going to be dependent on somebody else's roadmap that might listen to you, or they might not care. And that's not a risk that a large, big institution or a large public company could take. So I think, again, you know, I think if we just kind of view ourselves as providing solutions to people's pains, there are some service elements related to MPC. The fact that it's pure software, it can be deployed in an agile manner in the cloud. It's scalable in fantastic ways that hardware can never get to. I mean, these are really compelling things when you look 10 years out of what your digital asset portfolio is going to need. So we're just a tool, but it's a very fundamental building block, right? And I think people are just sort of figuring out in the decision-making levels of large institutions. That's where really most of the activity is these days. So.
I mean, we came to a very similar conclusion in terms of, we believe that the MPC framework needs to be a fundamental building block of the next generation of web. And that's why we've deployed all of our MPC code into the Apache Milagro open source project. So, you know, we're trying to make sure that even if the landscape does continue to consolidate, the people that care about having the appropriate level of security in the open source world, so that everybody can gain access to that level of security, and it's not it's not segregated purely to the enterprise levels, and the financial institutions have a very tight grip of where we're going with this. We think we've got a framework that we can use, and I just put my hand up and just ask openly if people are prepared to kind of commit time to helping us build that open source repository. It'd be exceptionally welcomed.
Yeah. Okay. If I might add to this, so I think that there's also some sort of lower level practical obstacles here, in a sense that it should really be the case that MPC should be usable for developers and system designers who don't have a PhD in cryptography. And we're not there yet at all. I think we need much better integration of MPC into programming languages, into compilers, etc., which is, I think, maybe one of the major things we can hope for in the future of MPC.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So we talked about Bitcoin. Makes sense. Bitcoin private key. Shard it, have it in shards and secure it this way. But that's cryptocurrencies. Do you see for the future new asset classes that will benefit from MPC applications, MPC enhancement? I'm thinking of NFTs that have been a big sensational boom last year in 2021. Thinking security tokens and other types of that sort. What's your views on this subject?
So I think what we're seeing here, we have a number of customers that are running, securitized tokens and offering security tokens, things like that. This is certainly around the corner in terms of a technology and a major trend. We're going to have real world assets that are going to be represented on the blockchain by some kind of token. These will be NFTs, obviously, in many cases. And I think we can see how MPC will provide practical assistance in this kind of nascent market. And you could think about very simple, scenarios like the management of trusts, right? They own securitized tokens that represent these real world assets. And MPC, folks often talk about the single point of failure. It also avoids a single point of authority. So it brings, a lot of operational flexibility. Multiple parties providing authority to transact with the trust's assets, right? And then, for example, the ability to switch out trustees in a seamless manner by generating a key share refresh, and so on. So these are sort of the practical applications in the real world in terms of management of assets and things like NFTs and security tokens that I think MPC can help bring to fruition.
Okay. Yes. So maybe one point. So key management and crypto assets. That's kind of one class of one use of field of use, but it's still like a very limited field of use for the technology as such. So maybe to broaden it out a little bit and just look at the biggest the driver of the internet economy, advertisement. With this technology, you can actually reclaim control of your data. So what you could do is that you can carve out a fair share of the profit in the entire advertisement industry and data-driven or data exchange in general. So these are much more fundamental markets for the entire economy, where this technology actually it's really distributes the power to the end users. And I believe that this is going to change the current players and the current internet economy quite significantly.
Yeah, sounds good.
Even off the internet, so to speak, at least. I mean, there's the whole business about privacy preserving machine learning, which is a really hot research topic. Mm-hmm. We have secure benchmarking. We have lots of other things where we really truly start combining private data from different sources to create added value, and where MPC can offer you to do stuff which otherwise you would not either not be allowed to do, or where people would not want to do it because they think their privacy is threatened.
With respect to digital assets, I think a lot of the really compelling cases for MPC had been in the custodian custodial applications where, you know, it's also impacted by regulation. I mean, who really should hold the key shares? Is it shared custody? Is it sub custody? Is it, you know, whatever? And I think MPC sort of provided a flexible model to enable those different custody models on the different jurisdictional domains and whatnot. But I think the driver for a lot of the new interest coming from the institutional side really has to do with expanded services. People want to move beyond just custody. As Jordan mentioned, I mean, NFTs are certainly a class. We have many people talking about liquid staking. I mean, because how much money can be made in custody is debatable. Because if you just charge a percentage for assets under custody or management, eventually people start asking, why am I paying so much? So you better come up with some new services. But well, these new services have different execution models. This isn't like one operation out of a cold wallet a week. It's basically you know, thousands of transactions per second, and with things like NFTs and staking and things like that, different things matter. So when you look at modern MPC wallets, not the first generation custody ones, maybe we had a couple of years ago, they tend to be very optimized for certain things in terms of performance and throughput and latency, how you add new coins to the protocols, different threshold models. So and also the fact that, you know, up to now, the signing component, because, you know, essentially what you're doing with a wallet is, you know, maybe generating ECDSA signature or EDDSA signature depending on the coin based on your shares. But that signing engine has been really seen as a black box. The policy mechanisms have been separate from the cryptographic signing mechanisms, and I think a lot of people, actually for the last couple of years, people have been talking about fixing this problem. So I think MPC wallets, and whether people call them MPC wallets or not, but digital asset wallets that incorporate these components are going to have some new tricks up their sleeves. And so we're really just at the beginning. Yeah.
Interesting. And would you say that is the case as well for usability, accessibility? I'm talking developer experience. It's doesn't, from what I see, it doesn't seem to be still yet today very super duper easy to implement and manipulate MPC for a developer who wants to build stuff on top of MPC. How and do you see accessibility, experience, usability of MPC evolve in the future? Maybe Kurt?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is really where we can make a big difference. And a project like the one we're doing with Protege Blockchain is all about that. So we're taking these 10 plus years of experience on how to sell and deploy MPC and sort of tackle these different issues and creating an infrastructure that allow us to bring in the newest protocol and make developers use or develop smart contract languages that allow developers to use all the tricks to make MPC run secure and efficient. And so you sort of orchestrate, and you even orchestrate all the nodes if you don't bring them yourself. So you sort of come in almost like a one-click shop, and you can go in and use MPC relatively fast, and you can extend it with your own security model, your own nodes and protocol. So it becomes the first step into MPC becomes super simple. That's the goal.
And by what year do you believe it will become seamless to use MPC for any developer?
By the end of March this year.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, I think we can wrap this up. We've reached the 30 minutes. It was a pleasure talking to you guys. Thank you again, and have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.